welcome to the Black and White Darkroom. Today we're going to get you started on the road to making your own black and white prints. We'll begin by going over some of the fundamentals of mixing chemistry, and then moving on to getting to know your enlarger, and then finally exposing and developing your first black and white print. And hopefully along the way we'll have some fun. Come on, let's see what develops. So we'll start by mixing the chemistry in the darkroom. And first and most important is that you always wear eye protection when you're mixing this chemistry in its concentrated form. And also because of that concentration, you always want to pour in the water first into these trays. And what that ends up doing is diluting the chemistry immediately. And so we'll begin with developer. And all these chemicals are measured in parts water versus parts of chemistry. And again, you start with the water, and for developer it'll be 2 parts water and then 1 part developer. And don't stop there. The next chemical you're going to mix up is the stop bath, and that's going to contain 9 parts of water and only 1 part stop. And the last chemical you're going to mix up is the fix, and it's going to take 1 part water and then 1 part fix. And finally you want to grab all the tongs for the different trays, and each of them should be labeled developer, stop, and fix. Now let's take a look at the enlarger. Just like the lens on your camera, an enlarger has a lens with a range of apertures, in this case going from 2.8 on over to 16. Now when you're printing, you want to shoot for f11 or f8 because lenses are sharpest in their middle ranges. Now let's take a look at the negative carrier. Now when you're loading your negatives, you want to have them emulsion side down and then also upside down. So looking down at it, you should be able to read the writing, Ilford, Kodak, or whatever brand, the edge numbers, and then just have it upside down in that negative carrier. And it's a good idea to tape it down. You just need a little piece on the top and the bottom of the negative, and that'll keep it from moving around or falling on the floor, because remember, it's going to be dark in here in a few minutes. And once you have it taped down, you're going to take that negative carrier and put it in the enlarger. And that little ring on the bottom, that's going to go facing down towards the lens. And there's a little lever on the left-hand side of the enlarger. You're going to pull that down, and that'll secure the negative stage. And these are contrast filters, and we'll go over these more in a later lesson, but for now just grab the number 2 filter, pull it out, and place it in the top of the enlarger. There should be a little door there, and you just open that up and slide in the filter. And now you're ready to compose and focus your image. You can turn off the lights now and set your timer to focus, and that'll leave the enlarger light on for a couple of minutes. And at this point you also want to open up the aperture of your enlarger lens all the way to 2.8, and that's going to give you the brightest image with which to focus. And you just want to compose and frame your image at this point. And then also take your grain finder, which is just kind of a magnifying glass with a mirror, and you're going to use it to help you focus your image. And when your image is actually in focus, you should see what look like grains of sand or pebbles. You should essentially be looking for a beach. And now you're ready to make your first test strip. And it's also important to remember, at this point, you can't turn the lights on in the darkroom. Doing so will ruin your paper and everyone else working in the darkroom.
One time I turned on the lights in the darkroom and ruined everyone's prints. And then I lost all my friends.
And now you're ready to make a test strip, so you're going to set the timer for 2-second increments and give that strip of paper a range of exposures to give you an idea of what your final exposure was going to be. And you take that exposed piece of paper and slide it into the developer, and an image should come up relatively quickly. And you're going to leave your photograph in the developer for 1 minute and 30 seconds and just agitate the corner by lifting it up 5 seconds every 30 seconds. And after the developer, you move on to the stop, and that's only going to be for about 30 seconds. And after the stop, your photograph's going to go in the fix, and it's going to stay in there for 3 minutes. And once your photograph has been fully fixed, it's going to go into the holding wash. And it's important with all these chemicals that you keep them out of your mouth, nose, and eyes.
Alright, so assuming that the holding wash would be clean water and free of contamination, I've taken my hands, dipped them into the wash, and then flicked them into the eyes of another student in my Photo 1 class. She ended up with her eyes burning and bloodshot for the rest of the day.
The last step of the process is the final wash. It's a 5-minute wash that's critical to get all the fix off your prints. It's also important that once a wash starts, that you don't add any prints to an ongoing wash. And it's even more important that you don't forget the final wash.
So there was this one time where I forgot to do the final wash for my prints. And then after placing it on the dry rack, it had leaked fix all over everybody else in my class's prints. And yeah, suffice it to say the least, they were a little bit pissed.
After the final wash is over, you're going to take your prints and squeegee the front and back of them to get the excess water off. And then place them in the drying racks face up. And the only thing we have left to do is to enjoy your pictures.